Can introverted people become great sales professionals?
Yes, they actually statistically are the best sales professionals.
What?
Yes, they are active listeners, right?
Okay.
In any sales pitch or call, you want to listen more than you talk. You want to allow the prospect or the customer or the client to drive the conversation, because as they're talking, you're collecting data.
I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to give me a bag.
What's up? You are now listening to FY Fly the podcast, and I'm your host, Hassan Thomas, along with Remy, and we are here to share tools on how millennials can budget, save, invest, and understand student debt and credit to achieve financial freedom. If you're a high school student, college student, or someone who's interested in gaining more financial insight, this podcast is for you.
I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to give me a bag. I'm trying to...
What's up, my FY Fly folks out there? How y'all doing? I hope y'all doing all right. Welcome to the FY Fly podcast. My name is Hassan Thomas, a.k.a. the kid that did and the man that can, baby. And today, we're going to be chopping up with high-ticket closer, sales coach, and podcaster, Mr. Jerry Vaval, a.k.a. Jerry V. Yes, sir. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. Thanks for the introduction. It always feels weird to be acknowledged in that way. I try to be a humble guy as much as possible, but I definitely...
Hey, man, I'm going to turn you up, man. I'm going to turn you up.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Usually, I'm the one hyping everybody up, so for you to hype me up that way, I appreciate it. I appreciate the invite, and I'm doing good, man.
Man, it's been a blessing, man. Been a blessing knowing you for a little bit, but I'm happy to be here because this is FYI Fly. And what we like to do, we like to skip the fluff and get right into the good stuff, man. So, I met you at a business conference, at a sales event, and it was great meeting you. And now we're on here rocking out. So that just shows the power of networking.
Yes.
But, I met you, you know what I'm saying, at your prime, man. I'm meeting you now at your glow, man. I want to take it back a little bit. So when did you really know sales was for you? Like, were you always good with communication and closing deals? Like, talk to us about that.
I've been professionally in sales since like 2006, 2007. But it wasn't until I used to work for Coca-Cola. I did everything from being on the truck to selling what's on the truck to even running my own sales team.
Aggression.
Yeah, but corporate America, I wasn't making no real money, because I had grew within the company and I was only making, the most I ever made was probably 60,000, right? Bringing in millions of dollars selling. But it wasn't until I got into my finance job where I actually was making six figures. And that's when I understood, like, okay, the quickest or the best way for me to create wealth or to take my family to the next level is through selling, right? And that's where I started to really start to study sales, understanding persuasion, communication, listening skills, and that nature. So it's funny how now I believe it's part of my purpose, but it took me so long to realize my purpose.
Yeah, and I feel like it definitely does. So I want to touch back on what you said about the stigma behind, being a salesperson. And I feel like that's come from, what we see from our society, what we see in our TV shows and stuff. But when I realized, what I'm doing with promoting my business and stuff, I realized it's not self-promotion. It's not being arrogant or anything of that nature. Whatever you're selling is solving somebody's problem. Whenever you solving somebody's issue, you actually want to, like, you know what I mean? Like you want to be that resource. You want to market so you can create impact and create income as well. So
Correct.
Like, what would you say makes up a good salesperson?
I would say listening, your listening skills. You have to be an avid listener to understand what is that problem you're trying to solve for. And there are going to be situations where this person may not have any problems. And that's not necessarily true. That's just what we assume, because it's like your dad. What do I get him for Father's Day or another tie? He has everything. No.
Yeah.
You have to listen and then ask the right questions to find out where can a possible problem may lay and how can I position my product or service to solve that particular problem.
Gotcha.
So if there is no problem you can find, create one in that person's mind so that your product solves that problem, right? And what I mean by create, you're not really creating, you're just having that person think deeper and realize your product actually services a need.
Don't be like Mayhem off that insurance commercial.
Exactly.
I know you remember that.
Exactly. Just like that. And it's like with that listening and understanding, you have to be able to, how can I say this? Ask the right questions so that you can go deeper, right? Because I believe that every problem is nothing's on the surface. Everything can go 7 layers deep. You know what I mean? And once you understand that line of questioning or that skill set of questioning,
Yeah.
now you're not even you having a full blown conversation about life and not even your product. They're already sold. They sold themselves. They're like, you know what? I like you, man. Let's yeah, go ahead, put it in the bag. Like we
Facts.
good. You know what I mean? And I met Danny G over the weekend, which I didn't know it was him, but he's a big salesperson on Instagram, one of what people would consider a sales guru. And he
Okay.
was like, bro, people are attracted more towards your energy than the actual skill set
100%.
of selling or the words that you're saying. And all my life that I've been successful because of that. I have a natural knack of getting people to trust me, especially over the phone, and they don't
Yeah.
even know me. You know what I mean? So I would say that's what listening and asking the right questions.
Listening, asking the right questions. Where does the ability come in into all that? You're speaking with different age groups. You're speaking with different ethnicities. How are you able to find that relatable point? Because I know that's huge, but I want you to really elaborate on that for
Yeah.
everybody listening. You know, how does that relatability come in whenever you're closing?
You have to be very aware of you and your surroundings. I had a coworker one time, and she was a young girl, and she was talking to a lot of successful business owners selling our product or service, and she said she would always get stuck when they would talk about their marriage or their kids. And she's a single young girl; she doesn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
So I was telling her, as like, you have to be able. You're not married, right? So just skip over that. It's like, oh, you're married. That's great. I hope to be married like you one day, and move on to the next question, right? Or if he's talking about his daughter and his kids, relate that situation to maybe a situation you had with your parents.
Yeah.
That's how I relate. So looking for those little details and don't fake it. If you ain't got it, move on to the next thing. It's
Yeah.
okay. Like they know. Hey, look, I would love to have your marriage one day, but fortunately for me right now, I'm single. Right? And
Better
just
say
play it off. 'Cause now when you say that, right, because you're
Yeah.
real, they're like, oh, they'll laugh and be like, oh man, that's a good joke, right? So now you're disarming them because you're breaking the ice with the joke, but you're also giving them a real point. So now it's like,
Gotcha.
okay, now we can move on to another part of the conversation, right? So within that, learning, being relatable is good, but you don't want to sit there and have 2 hour conversation about nothing. Learn how to direct that conversation within that relatability.
Gotcha. I like that.
In sales, you do 3 things, especially when you are learning your script. You want to first memorize it. You want to then internalize it. And lastly, you want to customize it. And I use that principle in life, right? The book Atomic Habits talks about exploring. And then when you find your lane, exploit it.
Come on.
Right?
Exploring and exploiting. I like that.
Exactly. So explore everything, right? And I know a lot of us, we feel like we got to start it late in life, and we didn't, right? Just continue to explore, and then next you know, you'll find your lane. And when you find that lane, exploit that bad boy. Push hard to it. Don't give up. You know what I mean? So those are some tips that I would give some people.
That's huge, bro. That's huge because that's exactly what I'm doing, man. I've explored honestly, it wasn't too much exploring, being honest. I've always been like business oriented, money oriented, and I found after I got hurt my senior year of college, tore my meniscus, I was writing a senior thesis over financial literacy, and then my cousin told me, he was like, "That's a good idea, but I think you should start a podcast about that. That's more, information. You could be more personable with people. You can interview people." And, from starting that podcast, I've turned it to an award-winning podcast, 2+ books, speaking, but it's all around that same lane. Like you said, find that lane and exploit that lane.
Yes.
So that's what I've literally done. I've stayed in my financial literacy lane, but I'm exploiting it. And now I have a new job working with the company, and I'm getting to pair my old lane, my previous lane of sports, with my current lane of financial literacy. So I definitely see what you're saying there, man. But I want to know, from your time at Valuetainment, from your time in, direct sales, what would you say you feel like your biggest lesson learned during these times?
During these times, I think I mean, it's probably the oldest cliche, right? Don't judge a book by its cover. I see a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs nowadays, because in this last with Valuetainment, we're working with a lot of entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Two things that I see that they struggle with is the imposter syndrome, and them also not investing enough in themselves and their business so they can work on the business and not in the business.
So explain imposter syndrome for anybody who may not know.
So imposter syndrome, as you know, I didn't really get my master's in college, so I'm gonna say it plainly as possible.
Yes, sir. That's what we need.
So imposter syndrome is simply saying when you sit at a table and you feel like you don't deserve to be at that table. Right? So if you at Thanksgiving, you at the kids table, and then now you finally sit at the adult table and you feel like, oh, this is a little overwhelming. The conversation.
Hey, that's a great example, though.
You get the big piece of turkey now. You get extra mashed potato. You're like, hold on, wait. I wasn't expecting all this. Maybe I didn't work hard enough to be here, and it's not necessarily true. You sat at the table because you do deserve to be there. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs, they struggle with that. Like, you have $1 million business, whether it's in revenue, it's $1 million business, and you still feel like I'm not doing something good. I'm not doing something right. Yes. Can you get better over time? Of course. Perfection is a process, but you will never be perfect. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then watching entrepreneurs, like, they make $30,000 in profit now per month or something like that. And they're scared to take 10 or 15,000 of that to hire a new executive, or even maybe hire a nanny to watch the kids so they can have more time. Like, oh, I know, because they work so hard to get that profit, and now they're tied to it. And I was like, no, you got to give a little bit more back, because now you don't want to be I don't know if you met Bees. Remember Bees at the event? Oh, yeah. He was like, I don't want to be a CEO of the business. I want to just own the business. And I think all of us want to do that eventually. We want to be a part of the business and allow that business to run by itself, and maybe start another passion of ours or another hobby. And I see that entrepreneurs struggle with letting go of that.
I want to jump back to the sales really quickly, because I think this is very important for for everybody listening in, because I've had my time in sales, but we're honestly selling ourselves every day. So I want to know from you, what are some strategies that you use when you come across an objection? And for the listeners tuning in, an objection is basically when you're trying to make a sale and a customer responds with some type of, hesitation or reason that they don't want your product or service. So how do you usually come back from those?
Yeah. So first I want to say, never end a call or a conversation on an objection. I'd rather you get a clear no. I'm not interested. So when I hear that hesitation, even if everything is going good, but I hear that pause, I say, oh, wait, let's stop right here. Call it like it is and say, look, I heard some hesitation in your voice. I see your body language. There's something. Tell me, what are you feeling? What is making you pause? What is uneasy?
Meet that objection head on.
Head on. And then I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't have the time. Oh, you sure you don't have the time? Like, you don't have 5 minutes to save you $500. You don't have 5 minutes to change your way of life, or like, call it head on. See what he said. Well, it's not really about the time. It's, I have this and I have that. I was like, okay, so if you're telling me if this $5,000 could possibly make you $50,000, it wouldn't be worth the investment. I mean, think about it. If you take your kids to Disney World, you're spending $3-4 grand, and it's just laughs, right? I don't pressure them. Say, look, I would not be giving you this if this is not something I feel would be very valuable to you. Yeah. Right. We don't. I have other people I need to call. I appreciate the time, but I don't want this to be a pressure sale, because I want you to come back and use me again. I want you to send your friends to me. Right. So when you do that, you disarm them. Jerry Minor always talks about disarming them. So in that objection, when you do hit it head on, you might get some defense. They might get defensive.
Oh yeah.
But then learn to disarm them. Right. And ask them for, Patrick David always says, ask for permission. So I see some hesitation. They give you the objection. Okay, do you mind if I push back on you? Do you mind if I challenge that way of thinking? Do you mind if I give you some feedback? And then they say yes. And once they say yes, they've given you permission to trash them. They've given you permission to be brutally honest. And I'm not saying be a jerk about it, but say, hey, look, since you gave me permission, this is what I see. Tell me if I'm wrong. Right? And start that dialogue and start. Now that might 7 layers deep. That might go into a whole nother conversation. And then
For
you
sure.
realize that objection they originally gave you had nothing to do with that. It might just be a husband scared of his wife.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
now you can work that and say, hey, if your wife is concerned, let's go ahead and schedule a call with her on. I can go ahead and talk to her and things of that nature. So that's how I would basically go through the whole objection cycle.
Man, it really sounds like, just being straight forward and just talking to them as a human. You know what I mean?
100%.
And being respectful. It doesn't sound like, I was honestly expecting like some crazy sales tips, but it's just real, relatable, and relevant information that you're giving. Like how I love how you said, hey, can I push back a little bit, or can I give you my opinion? And then I also know a sales technique is also is getting them to say yes.
Yes.
Getting them to say yes a lot.
Because psychologically, you positive reinforcement. The more they say yes, the more they say yes. And when you question them, I learned this. I knew I was doing it anyway, but I learned that it was actual technique in a book I just read. When you question them, and even when you question yourself, be derogatory in your questioning. Ask yourself a negative question so that you can produce a positive answer.
Okay, so what does that look like? Can you?
So like I said, you wouldn't want to invest $5,000 to possibly make 50,000 later on.
Got you.
Right. So now you're like, man, why would? Well, no, yeah, I mean, yeah, I would, right?
Yeah,
Because now I got you thinking like, yeah, damn, why wouldn't I want to invest 5,000 or 50? Like, who wouldn't want to, right? And even ask yourself that, right? Because we talk about, even as salespeople, we need to come on a call with a certain amount of energy because it's transferable. So I said, even ask yourself those derogatory questions. It's like, don't always be like, yeah, I'm gonna kill it. I know he's gonna sign it. No, it's like, okay, what do I need to do to close this deal right now? Or what do I need to do to make these cold calls? Or what do I need to do to have this certain performance in this month? So it's a derogatory question, right? And then now I start to produce the positive result mentally and physically. So that's kind of like how you want to do it. And I will also say is your conviction.
Yeah.
The times I didn't sell is because I didn't believe in the product. And as you start to deal with, in high ticket closing, you're dealing with successful people. You're dealing with people who are dropping 20, 40, 50, even $100,000 on a product. They don't want the sales bluff. They don't want you to say, hey, how you doing? How's your morning? Get to the point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you the more conviction you have about the product, if you believe in it and they trust you, they're like, you know what, then I believe in it as well, because you believe it's going to help me out so much. I feel your conviction on the phone. I'll go ahead and buy.
All right. So I have a great question for you, man. Can introverted people become great sales professionals?
Yes, they actually statistically are the best sales professionals.
What?
Yes, they are active listeners, right?
Okay.
In any sales pitch or call, you want to listen more than you talk. You want to allow the prospect or the customer or the client to drive the conversation, because as they're talking, you're collecting data. And all you're doing is reaffirming. Introverted people. So to that point is, if you want to break down your sales strategy, who you are as a salesperson, and you're negotiating prices, the introverted side of you is the best skill you can have, because the more you listen, the more you intake, the more you can digest and break down what that person is giving you. You can get straight to that pain point and sell your product.
I like that, bro. And it I feel like sales is kind of like being a doctor. You got your client who comes in, they tell you everything that's wrong with you. Doctors just listening, asking little probing questions, and then they solve that problem. They give you that medicine, they give you that prescription, whatever you need. I feel like it's the same thing with sales. You talking to that client, getting all the information, letting them talk, as you said, and then once you've gathered all the information, you reaffirm it and bring it back and solve all of their problems.
Yes. And it's funny because Patrick Bet-David said that's how you want to, especially in the realm of being a consultant, that's exactly how you want to sell. You want to be a doctor, because when you as a client, when you walk into a doctor's office, you just take whatever they tell you. They're so confident, and they're just listening to you, and you think because this person had a degree and everything they say must be true. Yeah. So that's exactly the confidence you want to walk in, that everything that I say must be true, because this is who I am. This is my background. This is what I've studied. So you're right on point with that example.
Man, this has been great, bro. So this is my last question for you, man. We can't have you on here and not ask our famous final question. So I'm gonna say two quotes, and I
Okay.
need you to let me know which one is more accurate. You ready?
Okay. I'm
All right,
ready.
bet. More money, more problems, like Biggie. Shout out Biggie.
Uh-huh.
Or money can't buy happiness. Which one do you agree with more?
This is tough because I'm from Brooklyn, so I love Biggie. I'ma say money can't buy happiness.
Oh wow. Okay, talk
Yeah.
to us. Why you say that one?
Because I've worked or I've seen people who've made or are making tens of millions of dollars and they're not happy. They're not like they still like if they're a dude and they're single, they wish they would have found someone before they made the money, or it's hard for them to find someone now as far
Yeah.
as a spouse or whatever. I've read stories or talked to people that they finally made it, they're a millionaire and they're like, that's it. Like it's not I could just
Coming
buy more
home to
stuff.
empty house, coming
Empty
home.
house. Lambo is there, but it's like it don't feel what I thought it was gonna feel. I could just buy more stuff. You know what I mean? And I've seen dudes that they out here and they was a millionaire and they can have any woman and anything they ever wanted, and they're like, yeah, but I'm still empty inside.
It's crazy.
So as I start to elevate and earn more and grow my net worth, I always keep that in mind. I want my mindset to be a certain way. I want to have wealth not only physically but emotionally and mentally. So understanding that money can't buy my happiness, I have to be happy now and along the way. I can't wait to get there to be happy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. Another good quote that I have in my phone is success is what you make it. Take it how it comes.
Ooh,
I think that was what's my man name? I think that was Pusha T.
Pusha T. No, that's really
Pusha T said that success is, and when I really thought about it, because we had won podcast of the year last year at the Southern Entertainment Awards, and me and my co-host was talking. We was like, man, we feel like we need to be at the BET Award. We feel like we need to be at this. But I was telling him, I was like, man, imagine if we really, thought like that, and that was our only focus. We would completely look over this huge success that we've just accomplished when we was in college dorms and in college classes 2 years ago. You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? So success is what you make it. Take it how it comes. So you're always gonna be, if something happens and you're further than you were last year,
Yeah.
that's a win.
Yes.
That is
Yeah.
a win.
And that's something that I struggled with early on in my career, is not being able to celebrate those small wins along the way. People used to say, enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, I'm like, yo, that's all this cliche. I don't, and it's not till now, like I stand still, I'm like, okay, enjoy the process, right? Celebrate the small wins.
Yeah.
Be in the moment, be in the present, because it's very important. That is what elevates your happiness. And also understanding your success might be $1 million and my success might be 10, but it doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean my 10 is better than your one. You know what I mean? Like, don't think like we all have this measuring stick, like, oh, this person's, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Someone who's at 100 million and someone who's at 10 million has the same problems. They just elevated depending on their cash flow, but it doesn't mean that person is a better person than me or than you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I learned that, especially working with Patrick David, Valuetainment, all the different people that I saw there. I was like, oh, these are just regular people. They got problems just like me, and they're kind of crazy. Okay, I see. That. You know what I mean? They don't have no
Yeah.
magic wand, and like they have bad habits, they have vices. They just have more zeros in their bank account. That's all it is.
Yeah, man. You got to trust that process and enjoy the journey, because it's always going to be a new play. It's always going to be a new goal. Once you reach this certain goal, once you get to 1 million, now you want 2. Once you get to 2, now you want 4. So it's
Yep.
always going to be a new play, always going to be a new goal. But just trust the process and continue just to strive for greatness. That's all we can literally do, man. So
Yep.
thank you so much for joining the FY Fly podcast. If you have any final words, any final takeaways, go ahead and also let them know where to reach you.
I think I've talked enough, but you could definitely reach me on my Instagram, consult, CONSULT JV. You can listen to my podcast. It's called Giant Fundamentals. It's on Apple and Spotify. Please follow, subscribe, leave a review, message me, DM, let us know, especially the men out there, let us know what you want us to talk about. I'm an open book. You could DM me. I'm very nice in person and friendly. And I appreciate the invitation once again. This was awesome. And continue to do what you're doing in the community. I see big things in your future as well.
Man, I appreciate it, man. This was fun. I know a lot of people learned a lot of gems. And for everybody listening, everything here may not have been for you, but if you can take away one thing that you can truly implement into your life, I promise you will start seeing those big changes. So thank you again, my man Jerry V. Hey, I'm calling you that from now on, man.
Yeah,
it ain't no Gary V, man. We going with Jerry V. Yeah.
Jay on the FYI Fly podcast, baby. Let's go.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Everybody, y'all already know. I'm gonna need y'all to stay safe, stay invested, and stay FYI Fly. We'll see y'all next week.
Thank you all for listening to FY Fly, the podcast, and we hope you enjoyed the show. Tune in next week for more financial literacy insights with our special guests. Please visit our website, social media platforms, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at FYI Fly Podcast. That's FYI FLI Podcast. See y'all next week and stay fly.